Does everyone who gets a diagnosis do better in life because of it? Stay tuned and let's find out. I pursued an ADHD diagnosis with many professionals, only to be refused an assessment with 2 and granted an assessment with 1 who decided there was nothing significantly amiss with me, just a little anxiety. Seriously? The 2 that turned me away said it would be a waste of time. Whose time? To assess me. And the one that did asked questions and did testing that would never have confirmed a diagnosis because they weren't properly trained to assess me as an adult woman. It was very discouraging. Peri-menopause was the great equalizer. When my brain function went offline, all the skills and strategies that I had successfully used prior to that hormonal shift stopped working for me. I had developed my executive function skills well enough to get my education and successfully serve clients in my private practice. However, my skills weren't developed in the methodical manner that I developed them after my cognitive fall. What a gift that time in my life was for me, and what was to transpire as a result.
Welcome to the Living Beyond ADHD podcast. If you're looking for a fresh perspective and actionable steps on hot topics from focus to follow-through to self-management and more, you are in the right place. Welcome your host, innovative educator, coach, and psychotherapist, Dr. B.
I ended up assessing and diagnosing myself, since the assessment of women is different than men, and sought help from a psychiatrist colleague of mine for medication that I felt would give me a secure foundation while I rebuilt my skills in the way that they needed to be built. Did I do better because of a diagnosis? No. My diagnosis gave me a clear target, and medication gave me the support that I needed, yet neither of them were enough to shift the quality of my life. What would? The proper development of my executive function skills and strategies. I devoured everything that I could get access to about adult ADHD, including training as an ADHD coach. I facilitated support groups for CHAD for over 30 years, served on their local professional advisory board, and I scheduled the then ADHD experts to speak at our meetings. I wasn't hearing the deeper answer. I also facilitated a meetup group for adults with ADHD for a little over 5 years. The deeper answer was beginning to unfold. It was that every adult was talking about executive function skill challenges much more than their inattention, hyperactivity, or impulsivity. That is, unless we were discussing cognitive hyperactivity, and then most all were experiencing that as well. That was the deeper answer. The solution to what most adults diagnosed with ADHD or suspecting ADHD would benefit from. And the even deeper awareness is that adult ADHD is the only diagnosis that includes these executive function challenges in the diagnosis itself. However, it is not the only diagnosis that should include these challenges. Those with chronic depression, anxiety, addictions, trauma, and even chronic illnesses also suffer from underdeveloped executive function skills. The deeper answer is that we are experiencing a worldwide crisis that is limiting the quality of life and the ultimate successful living of millions and millions of adults. You may be one of those millions of adults and be suffering needlessly because the diagnosis alone doesn't improve the quality of your life. And waiting years to get one, if that's what you've been doing, is actually making things worse, not better for you. There is something you can do today, right now, to help yourself. I live a life of service, and years ago, I created something I thought of as a public service announcement. It's a video and an ebook telling people about this problem of misdiagnosis or incomplete diagnosis. The information might be a little outdated. However, it's still accurate for the most part. If you're interested in doing something to help yourself right now, I suggest that you get your free copy of this video and ebook. You'll find the link in the show notes. The years I saw mental health professionals and was being diagnosed with many other things other than adult ADHD and underdeveloped executive function skills actually slowed down my growth and skill development and brought with it many traumatic life events. And clearly, I didn't need a diagnosis or medication to build my underdeveloped executive function skills properly. If I had known this was the underlying issue sooner, I could have, and I certainly would have gotten right on it and started more methodically developing my skills. However, there's no accidents in the universe and life, at least in my belief system, and it took the onset of peri-menopause and hormonal changes to bring me to my knees, something that none of the mental health professionals I had worked with had prepared me for. I knew there were problems for years, probably like most of you. And like most of you, I didn't know the solution to those problems yet. There were no programs or educators to show me what to do, how to do it, nor how important these executive function skills are to the quality of life. That's the sad part, but not anymore. I put on my own oxygen mask first, and I solved these problems for myself. And then it became my life's work to help others like you do what I did for myself. If you're seeking help, I'm here to help you. So that's a bit about my journey and what I learned is and isn't true. What about you? Have you been waiting for a diagnosis of adult ADHD? And when you finally got it, if you did the professional offer you anything beyond a diagnosis? Did they offer you the traditional journey of diagnosis, medication, and therapy? Or perhaps mention ADHD coaching if they were slightly more knowledgeable? Most likely, they didn't recommend that you seek executive function skills training to more fully develop your executive function skills so you could function and live successfully in your society. And if so, like so many adults that I speak to, you even ask them for what more you could do other than just get your diagnosis and take medication. And they often just shake their professional heads and say they don't know. And the truth is, they don't know. There is no requirement for mental health professionals to have any training specific to adult ADHD and executive function skill development before or after licensure. That means that millions and millions of mental health professionals worldwide don't know how to help you. You have to discover the help yourself. I think we all have a need to know something conclusive about ourselves and how we're functioning. Otherwise, we're left to our own to create a narrative to make sense of the challenges that we experience. And typically that narrative isn't very loving. For lack of accurate information, we decide that we aren't good enough or smart enough or able enough. We shamefully name call with lazy, stupid, idiot, and more. We blame ourselves without compassion, understanding, mercy, or grace. Who else could we blame? Everything is happening to us because of us, and so it must be us. If you want to start to learn what's wrong and how to begin to repair the damage so you can release yourself from a lifetime sentence of misery? Stay tuned. If you're a regular listener, you probably know by now that I love to watch movies for lessons. I decided to rewatch Peaceful Warrior last night because there are so many important lessons in that movie with Nick Nolte in the role of Socrates. One lesson I extracted years ago from the book and also in the movie is to be mindful of who I am becoming on the way to where it is that I'm going. In other words, I don't want to set a goal, throw myself into the goal, and achieve that goal only to find out that I don't like the person I've become along the way to my goal. What's worse, there's lots of cleanup to do to undo the mess that I've created by not monitoring my development, who I was becoming along the way. It doesn't take long to check in each night to determine if I'm becoming more of the person I seek to become, expanding into a greater version of Dr. B, the person I choose to be. And it wouldn't take you more than a few minutes either each night to do the same. Another lesson from that movie that it taught me is that there is never nothing going on. There's always something happening in life if I'm present to experience it. And that first, in order to do that, I have to take out the garbage, as Socrates said. Empty my mind of all the garbage that lives there rent-free, shaping and polluting my thoughts. Other lessons I took from the movie are to be me, because I am enough, more than enough, to go for what calls me and show up 100% without distractions in my mind, which will allow me to bring my best to the moment. It's not possible when I'm distracted with internal thoughts or external seductions. So, are you still waiting for a diagnosis or something official before you help yourself? The diagnosis itself isn't enough to shift your quality of life. Are you willing to help yourself now while you're waiting for something official? If you are waiting? If so, great. And are you so indoctrinated by societal guidelines and norms that are given to you by experts who are often receiving compensation from the very solutions that they're advocating? Whether we're talking about adult ADHD, chronic depression, anxiety, trauma, addictions, chronic illnesses, and more. There is a lot of money to be made by those who aren't helping you solve the deeper, underlying issues. You have a right to know what those issues are and that you can empower yourself to begin to solve the challenges in your life rather than just live with them and make the best out of them. Seriously? Do you owe it to yourself to at least think through additional information that they aren't giving you and be your own advocate, your own independent thinker, and make up your own mind once you have all the facts? When you were a little kid, did you wait for what you needed? Or did you reach for it, go for it, even if you got into trouble afterwards? When did you stop reaching for what you need for your own well-being? When did you stop listening to the little voice inside of you and pay more attention to the voices of society or the ADHD industry telling you what to do about your symptoms? And have they ever once told you that you could recover from this seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, not ADHD, and go on to live an amazing life? Probably never. Your entire being is designed the way that it is. That's the amazing mystery of us humans. We are each uniquely us. It's your journey, if you choose to take it, to discover who you are what your gifts are, what you love, and what speaks to you and pulls you forward? Have you been putting your life on hold until you get word from a professional or even permission to live your best life? And will waiting for their permission or instructions automatically give you that best life? Will their recommendations give you the quality of life you deserve? I doubt it. I hear from adults daily, writing and asking about working with me or responding to an email they receive from me and sharing about their life with me. Our collective stories are heartbreaking, just heartbreaking. The needless suffering is rampant worldwide. And not being a world traveler, I never knew firsthand the suffering that we all collectively endure because we don't know we can put a stop to it ourselves until we do know. So many of you write to me about your lack of confidence. Your lack of confidence in part comes from your lack of competence, and that's not a moral issue. If you aren't competent yet in your basic executive function skills, they're skills, and you can develop them and become competent no matter what your age. It's never too late. And with competence comes confidence. Are you ready to put an end to your self-doubt and second-guessing? I hope so, because it's using up hours and hours of your life. We are definitely as limited as we make up our minds to be. We have so many limiting beliefs that are stored in our minds as facts when they aren't facts. They're limiting beliefs. If something isn't 100% true, then it's a belief, not a fact, and most likely a limiting belief. We need to identify them, challenge them, disprove them, and shift them to beliefs that are empowering for us. Remember, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right either way. If you aren't a member of my Facebook group, Living Beyond ADHD, I highly recommend that you get over there and follow these simple steps when you ask to join so you can be approved more quickly. Ask to join and answer the few questions that are asked of you, including the question about the group rules. Second, we won't chase you for answers if you don't respond to the questions that we ask. You will be declined after 2 to 3 days of not answering the questions. 3, you can ask to join again and answer the questions so you can be approved. 4, we have rules so that the group remains a safe space, free of judgment, and a place where you can show up and interact with like-minded adults, laugh a little, learn a little, and most of all, be connected to a positive energy community. And 5, approvals are done 1 to 2 times a week, so please be patient and answer the questions so you don't have to wait any longer. Do you have questions about adult ADHD? Speaking of questions or even executive function skills that you'd like answered? If so, great. I go live in the group every Friday, and I answer members' questions in our live Q&A sessions. There's a weekly post for your questions to be answered live, so look for it and post your questions. And if you can't make it at the time I go live, it's recorded, and you can get your answers when you watch the replay. So it's definitely worth joining us to get your questions answered, unless, of course, you have all the answers you need or you want. Since everyone joining the group wants to develop their executive function skills or get accurate information about executive function skills and ADHD, I have lots and lots of free resources available on my website at drbarbaracohen.com, as well as provide great posts and the weekly live Q&A in the group to support your needs. And if you're interested in learning more about the development of your executive function skills, you can join the Adventures in Achievement waitlist for January 2022. Getting on the waitlist doesn't obligate you to join the program. It simply provides you with information about executive function skills and how the program facilitates you developing yours, so that you no longer have limitations on what you can or can't do. It's an experiential 7-month program to help you transform your life from the inside out. For those of you who have been longtime listeners, you know that I'm big on wins. Daily focus on wins trains your mind for consistency. Every day to notice what's right with you, right with what you're doing, and what's right in the world. In other words, wins. Focusing on daily wins is more important than ever, given the daily bombardment of negatives that are targeting us every day. So be proactive. Celebrate your wins, big and small, every day. You are the meaning maker of your life. So give the unfolding of your life an empowering meaning, and you'll be grateful that you did. You are a precious child of God and of the universe, and you're called a human being, not a human doing, for good reason. You don't have to earn your value. You were born with it. Your value comes from who you are, not what you do. And if you need a place to know that this is true, be sure to join the Facebook group so you can be with others who will celebrate your wins with you and affirm that you are more than okay as you, the human being. So what's it going to be for you today? Did you take the initiative and both plan and follow through on something important to you? That's awesome. Did you speak to someone and appreciate them simply because you wanted to? Beautiful. I bet they appreciated it. Did you spend some quality time with your dog or your cat or your child this week? Good for you. You get the point. Celebrate all of them, and none of this half-hearted celebrating. Exaggerate your emotions. Yes, wow, awesome. Be sure to celebrate your wins, big and small, because celebrating daily builds consistency, which is really important and makes a faster difference in your life. How much time do we have? Not much. So let's get to it.
This podcast is sponsored by Pure Potential with Dr. B. You can head over to drbarbaracohen.com and find the podcast episodes and transcripts. Great free content, plus information on programs and products, including the groundbreaking online Adventures in Achievement Foundational Skills Training and Coaching Program. You can also learn about Dr. B's masterclasses on decision-making, time management, and banishing procrastination. That's drbarbaracohen.com.
So back to whether or not everyone does better in life by getting a diagnosis or not. Let's look at the adults who do have a diagnosis of ADHD. How many of them are doing better because of their diagnosis? Well, if our Facebook group is any indication, out of the over 2,100 people in that group, the majority of them are still suffering, even with a diagnosis. They know the what, ADHD, and they don't know the how to or the what to do. Many have lost hope because the mental health field isn't instilling hope in adults, rather just explaining what many already knew, and that's it. Motivation comes from having a good enough reason to do something, to move towards something. If mental health professionals aren't offering real hope and substantiating it with evidence beyond fluff and cheerleading gestures, then what is the point in hoping for a better life and believing it's possible for us? The disappointment is devastating when it doesn't happen. Let me tell you, real hope is alive and well. Let's look at some specific steps that you can take to improve the quality of your life right now. Are you time challenged? If so, you can learn to manage yourself and your time much better than you're doing now. It's a skill, an executive function pre-skill. And just like tying your shoes, it's a skill you can learn. Everyone has the same amount of time per day, and saying that you don't have enough time isn't correct. It's not a shortage of time that's hurting you. It's how you've learned to manage yourself with time and developing a healthy relationship with time so it becomes your friend, not your enemy. How do you do that? Easy. You look for the link in the show notes for the Time Management Secrets Masterclass, and you see if the solution resonates with you. It's not enough to learn something from a book or even a masterclass. You have to experience it and embody it for its true value to emerge. Knowledge isn't enough. It's knowing how to utilize that knowledge that'll set you free. So if working together for the next 30 days appeals to you, I'll see you on the inside. Are you a procrastinator extraordinaire? If so, you can banish it from your life and gain back the hours of wasted time that it's stealing from you. Again, it's a skill, an executive function pre-skill. And just like brushing your teeth, it's a skill you can learn. Procrastination is a symptom. It's not the underlying problem. Let's discover your underlying challenges and resolve them so that you can reclaim hours of your day for what's meaningful to you. How do you do that? You look for the link in the show notes for the Banishing Procrastination Masterclass, and you see if the solution resonates with you. There are subtle saboteurs that are derailing you left and right, and I trust you want to know what they are and how to stop them. If you do, let's work together for the next 30 days and put procrastination behind you. Do you doubt your decisions or continually second-guess yourself long after you make a decision? Would you be surprised to hear that good decision-making isn't all that difficult when you have a methodology to follow? If you don't look forward to making decisions because you know it's going to take you hours and hours and you still won't be convinced that you've made a good decision, please hear me. You can turn your decision-making into something you actually look forward to doing and have the certainty that your decisions are well-founded. And what will you do with all of the extra time that you save? Instead of fretting about your decisions, you'll just make them and move on. Sound appealing? If so, check it out in the show notes and make a decision you'll be glad that you did. There you have it. 3 steps to freedom from overwhelm, hopelessness, and doubt. Who will you be without the underdeveloped executive function pre-skills that are limiting your success? If you've lived this way for most of your life, you might feel a loyalty to them and feel strange about the idea of releasing them or even transforming them so that you are living in an empowered way in your life. If you're even a bit curious, at least check it out. The widespread needless suffering of millions of adults around the world has to stop. And I'm doing what I can to stop it with this generation, with us. We call ADHD a disorder, which, if thought about in a different way, that until we create order from disorder, which we can definitely do, we will continue to have the disorder of ADHD. The choice is yours. We all need to address so many of the limiting beliefs that we've been indoctrinated with, as well as further develop our underdeveloped executive function skills if we want to live the life that's possible for us. We have to be the person who lives the life that we say that we want, not struggle to live the life that we say that we want so that we can become the person someday who has that life. That's backwards thinking. So is waiting for a diagnosis before you start to help yourself to a better quality of life. Your life is full of clues about what's missing or needs your attention. So slow down and become a student of your own life. Study yourself, who you are today, and who you need to be to do what you want to do. Understand what you need to succeed with a multifaceted brain that you have. Take action on what you learn about yourself. This is the life work that lies ahead for you if this is your time. We each came to this lifetime with an amazing gift. I would love it if each and every person on this planet were able to express his or her unique gifts freely without the threat of being shamed or criticized. What an amazing world this would be. Let's put an end to the stigma once and for all and become who we are destined to be so that we can do what we're destined to do for ourselves and future generations. A favorite quote. Nick Webb said, "We inhabit a world in which we tend to put labels on each other and expect that we will then march through life wearing them like permanent sandwich boards. I know that I live in a world that uses labels freely. However, labels easily become identity statements about who we are instead of what is challenging to us. Therefore, I prefer to keep the what as the challenge and the who as the sacred, precious child that I am and you are. I choose to be me, not a label. How about you? What do you choose?" Whether you're learning from my podcast episodes or Facebook Live videos or working with me directly, you're in my world and I'm here to serve your needs. Be sure to reach out and get your needs met because it's up to you to take action so that things can change for the better for you. And they can only change for the better for you if you change. Make it a priority to join the Facebook group and answer the questions asked of you so you can have a non-judgmental community to lean into. Put yourself on the wait list for the Adventures in Achievement Foundation Skills program so that you receive all the amazing emails that we've written to both educate you about executive function skills as well as the details of the program. There's absolutely no obligation by being on the wait list. You'll thank yourself for getting informed. There's no Adventures in Achievement Foundation Skills program to enroll in until January 2022, so you have plenty of time to learn about your executive function skills and their development, as well as how that happens in the program. And if you're on the wait list, you'll hear about transformations that are happening for students in such a short period of time, such as this excerpt. In this community, there are so many shared experiences that I do not feel alone in my struggles and also in my wins. Thank you, Dr. B. I'm looking forward to an amazing future that I have barely, bravely even begun dreaming about yet. And yet, I know that I am becoming a brand new version of me that is so exciting and that I am extremely proud of and love. So if you enjoyed today's podcast or any of the other episodes, please share this podcast show with others. I would also be grateful if you'd rate the show and write a positive or an inspiring review on iTunes so I know that I'm meeting your needs. It means a lot to me to know that your life is getting a little bit better every time we get together. Be sure to check out the show notes for the many opportunities available to you, as well as ways that we can work together and stop your needless suffering. You will find real solutions to the challenges that you're experiencing, whether in my free resources, the 3 amazing master classes, or the Adventures in Achievement Foundational Skills program. I would love to help you realize a new freedom. That is, if that's of interest to you. Thanks for listening. Until the next time, bye for now.
Thanks so much for listening today. If you're eager to make positive changes in your life and stop overwhelm and confusion from derailing you, head over to drbarbaracohen.com and see how Dr. B can help you today. Whether you love learning in an online group environment with personalized coaching or prefer the pace of guided self-study, Dr. B offers the skills, strategies, and individual support you need. Get started on your journey today by visiting the website at drbarbaracohen.com.